Declaration to give notice by publication. Hi, I'm Darren Findling of the Probate Pro, and we're going to examine Scale Form PC 617. Scale for State Court Administrative Office, PC for Probate Court, Form 617. You're welcome to contact my office. We'd be happy to give this form to you free of charge. This declaration of intent to give notice by publication is used in a particular context in which there's a requirement to give notice to the interested persons pursuant to either statute or the court rule 5.125 or the related court rules, but the whereabouts of the individual upon which you're giving notice are unknown or unascertainable. So this form allows for this process to be done through the publication process. With all of the scale forms, they are created by either statute or court rule or both, and in this particular case, the floating arrow references MCR 5.105A3. So let's discuss this particular court rule. The court rule provides that an interested person whose address or whereabouts are not known or are unascertainable may be served by publication if declaration of intent to give notice by publication under the court rule MCR 1.109D3 is filed with the court. So the declaration is declaring to the court what information you have and what efforts you've made through diligent efforts to ascertain the whereabouts of the individual. So you're making this declaration to the court saying, we have attempted, or I have attempted through searches, maybe it's through US Postal, maybe it's internet searches, maybe a process server or private investigator, to try to find the whereabouts of the individual upon which notice is required under the statute or court rule, but we can't do so. So again, due process provides that everyone's entitled to notice of proceedings that are occurring. So this is part of that process. Let's work our way through the form. Top left corner is the county, top right corner is the case number. The top part is pretty intuitive. The name of the estate upon which this matter is involved in, and then the service of what documents, for example, is it a petition for probate, a petition for guardianship? What is the process upon which you're trying to give notice to interested persons that are entitled to receive notice under the statute or court rule? You're identifying that it can't be made on this person. So you're going to identify the name of the person, and I know there's an address here, but this is the last address that you may know of, and that you intend to publish notice to that individual because the address or their whereabouts are unknown. Now, it's really important to understand that you can't just simply say, well, I don't know, or I don't want them to give notice or get notice. You can't just pretend as if you've made efforts. You have to use diligence in that attempt to provide notice. And there's incredible tools available to most individuals. First, you can mail to the last known addresses, and often the US Postal Service will identify if there's a forwarding address on record. You can also communicate with family and neighbors and friends to identify an address. And of course, with the power of the web, you can do extensive database searches to identify the whereabouts of an individual. In fact, as long as the name is not really common like John Doe or Jim Smith, you can find most people through an internet search, at least address or addresses of where they are. You can also pay through subscription services or individual use services, online services that can help you narrow down addresses, as well as a private investigator or other skip tracer to help you get this information. But we find that many people can be found with a simple internet search. Now, the diligence that you've taken or undertaken before you're giving declaration of intent has to be specified in this red rectangle area in which you're identifying to the court what steps you've taken. So who you've communicated with, what attempts have you made? You're giving the court this information for the court to determine whether publication is appropriate under those circumstances. So again, the more information you can provide to the court, the better. And of course, with this declaration of intent, there's a number of lines here, but you can attach additional documentation as well as maybe it's postal searches and so on, to this form when you're filing it with the court. With all of these scale forms, there is a declaration, and you're declaring under the penalties of perjury that the information has been examined and it's true to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief. Now, again, you are it's really careful. You have to be really careful here, because when you publish, we know that most people don't open up a legal newspaper and don't read it each week and go, oh, I happen to be identified in a legal newspaper, I better go to the courthouse. This is really a process in which we know that most people receive their mail, most people get emails, most people pick up their phone, but the moment it's published in a legal news, it's very likely that that recipient is not going to see that information unless they are really in tune to reviewing legal notices through a legal newspaper. And in my experience, very few, if anybody, ever would do that. So again, it's really important to give notice through means that it is likely that the person or persons will receive before you ever do a publication. So again, this is a process of last resort when the whereabouts of that individual are unknown or unascertainable. So again, a place for the petitioner to sign, as well as an attorney if there's an attorney involved. And then it also has a note here. It's complete a separate form, which is a PC form, scale form 617 for each person. And that's the publication itself. When publication is completed, and that you have to use the PC 564, which we've also covered, which is the proof of service. So that PC 564 is used to show that publication has occurred, and the affidavit of publication, which is provided to you by the legal newspaper, is attached so that there's a proof of service and the affidavit that it occurred. Again, this process should only be undertaken with a real clear understanding of the court rule and statutes. And with all of these probate forms, we strongly urge you to work with a skilled, competent probate practitioner who understands how to navigate through these complicated issues. At the Probate Pro, we're passionate about everything probate. If you have questions about this form or any probate or trust-related issue, visit us at the Probate Pro, theprobatepro.com, or call us at 1-833-PROBATE.